Really been the big thing for this state and for Australia over this decade. At the start of the decade, Australia produced 20 million tonnes of LNG, most of that in Western Australia. By the end of the decade, it'll be 85 million tonnes, again, most of that in Western Australia. And at that point, Australia will be easily the world's biggest producer of LNG.
We've of course seen the big ramp up with respect to the construction stage of LNG in Australia. We're now shifting, I guess it's the changing phase of LNG, we're shifting to that export phase and the production phase. What benefits do you see that bringing to Western Australia? Because obviously it changes the dynamic of the resources space when you exit the investment, the construction phase into more of, I guess, the delivery and export production phase.
Well, that will come, but I'd just emphasise that there's still a lot of construction taking place. Yesterday I was on Barrow Island where Chevron's Gorgon project is. There's still 6,500 construction workers on the island, and they'll be there, most of them, for another year or so. So still a little bit of way to go, but yes, these projects are coming on, a number of them around the world together. So it'll be a little bit quieter in that sense, but these projects are about production. And I think increasingly you'll see natural gas, LNG or pipeline gas, almost break away from the oil price and become a commodity clearly in its own right, because the world is looking for more energy and cleaner energy, and gas is the way.
As, of course, the leader of a state, and of course Australia's big mining state, when you see the oil price drop down to $30 a barrel, what does it do to you? What happens to you? Do you wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night?
Not quite, but I was a bit happier today because it's gone back up a little bit. But look, lower commodity prices, oil, which has affected natural gas, and particularly iron ore prices. This state produces over a third of the world's iron ore, so that's had a big impact on state government finances. But look, the industry really is strong, and I think often, Matt, people assume that these are bad times. The mining and petroleum industry in Western Australia alone is a $90 billion a year industry. And yes, 3 years ago, at the peak of the cycle, it was a $115 billion industry. It'll be back there in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about, I guess, the misunderstanding of the West Australian economy and the end of the mining boom, because we broadcast internationally and a lot of people say to us, mining's over in Australia, but you, of course, have a very different opinion.
Yeah, we had an extraordinary peak in commodity prices 2 or 3 years ago. They've then crashed, but they are slowly recovering in both oil, iron ore and other commodities. And the mining industry here is very diversified. 37% of the world's iron ore, 14% of the world's alumina, and about 6 to 10% of gold, nickel, natural gas. So when you've got that diversity with over 300 mining and petroleum projects, yes, some are up, some are down, but look, it's a pretty good place to be. And Asia in particular needs raw materials, commodities, and particularly energy.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about, I guess, the transition in the overall Australian economy. We are seeing a transition away from mining-led investment. Yes, mining's still going to be important, but to more domestic consumption. The Prime Minister said he wants an ideas boom rather than a mining boom. How is Western Australia trying to leverage off that as well? Do you see opportunities there?
Well, a lot of new innovation and technology is actually built around our base industry. So I would suggest the petroleum industry is the most advanced here outside the military, very sophisticated. The iron ore mining industry remotely operates mines, rail lines and ports from 1,500 kilometres away, including driverless trucks. So all those applications are in that industry. But I think the point may be is that, for a specialist state like Western Australia, which is very mining concentrated, export orientated, the mining industry can sustain this state, but it cannot by itself sustain the whole Australian economy. So I'm very careful to say, don't let's walk away from mining. This is the wealthiest, biggest export industry Australia's got. But yes, for the rest of Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, they're going to have to find new industries.
What about other areas, agriculture, education, tourism? How are you trying to get a slice of that pie in Western Australia?
Well, agriculture's a growth sector, and we're optimistic we'll double the value of agricultural production over the next few years. It's already a $10 or $12 billion a year industry, and again, very strongly export focused. And very high quality in terms of quarantine and safety requirements. So we're doing good work and getting a lot of particularly Chinese investment into agriculture throughout Australia, but particularly into Western Australia. Tourism, great potential. We're close to Asia. We're in the same time zone as 2 billion people. And really tourism struggled a few years ago because the mining industry was so strong you couldn't find a hotel room in Perth. Well, you can now, and so I expect to see tourism grow, and international education is a good growth area too. But mining and petroleum is going to be front and centre for a long time.